In the year 2010, Nintendo aimed to celebrate the 25th anniversary of their flagship series, Super Mario Bros. They released consoles, commercials, and baked cakes in Mario's grand honor. But the big ticket item unquestionably for Mario's 25th was Super Mario All-Stars Limited Edition for the Wii. In the years since, it's become somewhat of a notorious release, selling gamers on a 17-year-old, practically unchanged game, all wrapped up in a shiny golden red cardboard box. Some called it lazy, while others deemed it a fitting and charming tribute to Nintendo's main man. So in this video, let's take a quick look back at the history of Super Mario All-Stars for the Wii, and how Mario's 25th birthday present ended up causing quite the controversy. What is going on, everyone? My name is Evan. Welcome back to the evilslaw channel. Really quickly, if you enjoy this video, press the like button. It helps the channel a ton. And subscribe if you have not already. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and I can't do it without you. Also, if at any point during this video that you feel nostalgic for Super Mario All-Stars, please, I encourage you, leave me a comment down below and let's move the conversation there. It's what this channel is all about. Anyway, enough of me yapping. Let's go back to the year 2005. In 2005, Nintendo unveiled Happy Mario 20, the first of what would become regular campaigns to celebrate Mario's milestone anniversaries. Nintendo had never previously recognized Mario's 5, 10, or 15-year anniversaries in such a manner, but a new precedent was about to take hold. As the name implies, the Happy Mario 20 event aimed to celebrate, well, 20 years of the mustachioed plumber, with a number of new games and hardware releases, among other things, coming under this commemorative banner. Hitting store shelves 20 years to the day of Super Mario Bros.' original release, gamers in Japan were treated to Mario Tennis Power Tour, Dr. Mario plus Puzzle League, and a reprint of the GBA port of Super Mario Bros. On the hardware side, we had this beautiful Famicom-themed variant of the newly released Game Boy Micro, and in due time, all of these releases, sans the Super Mario Bros. Reprint, would make their way to the US and Europe. Overall, it was a fine first attempt at celebrating a Mario milestone. Perhaps a little too Game Boy Advance-centric, but still, rather solid. And just 5 short years later, Nintendo would opt to take another crack at Mario's birthday. '" 2010 marked Mario's 25th, and with the Wii and the DS/DSi still doing really well, Nintendo was planning to go much bigger. Announced 25 years to the day of the first game's release, Mario 25 was a much more comprehensive affair, including its own website, contests, special developer interviews, a collaboration with Converse sneakers, and a whole host of other corresponding events. On Japanese TV, viewers were treated to this commercial, which doesn't really advertise any specific product, but instead the campaign as a whole. It's a really nice spot, utilizing subtle vibes and calmness to invoke a keen sense of nostalgia. On the product side, Nintendo announced a number of special Wii bundles, all of which varied quite a bit depending on your region. Here in the US, we received this striking red Wii variant bundled in with new Super Mario Bros. Wii, and in Japan, they got a version with a slightly altered ROM of the original Super Mario Bros., which replaced the question marks on the coin blocks with a 25th anniversary logo. The handheld side received this anniversary variant of the DSi XL, again with varying titles depending on where you were in the world. But all of that would pale in comparison to the item that was billed as the campaign's crown jewel.
スーパーマリオ25周年特別パッケージスーパーマリオコレクションスペシャルパック
In September of 2010, Nintendo unveiled the Super Mario Collection Special Pack, a revival of the Super Famicom compilation game released under the same name. Originally released in 1993 to critical acclaim, the collection fundamentally remade 4 Super Mario Bros. Titles while taking full advantage of the 16-bit hardware. Worldwide, it was known as Super Mario All-Stars, and from here on out, that is how I'm going to be referring to it. The game was a huge success, becoming one of the Super Nintendo's best-selling titles and setting a new precedent for both video game remakes and compilations in one fell swoop. This Wii re-release would mark the first time the game would be readily available since All-Stars plus Super Mario World, a slight yet obvious update to boost SNES bundle sales for the 1994 holiday in both the US and Europe. All-Stars had never hit the Wii's Virtual Console, but all of the games included within it were available, albeit in their original forms, on the Wii Shop channel. But this new special pack wouldn't just be the original game on a disc. Instead, Nintendo decided to pack it in with two other pieces: an art book detailing the history of the series up until 2010, and a soundtrack CD with a wide-ranging selection of Mario's greatest hits. All of that for the discounted price of around $30 US. Excitement was high. It felt like a moment. However, there was just one problem. The set was announced exclusively for Japan. For weeks, nothing was mentioned about an international release. And growing up a huge Nintendo fan during that time, those weeks felt like years. By October, the game would hit shelves in Japan and was slated for Europe, but there was still no word on the US. But eventually, the inevitable announcement arrived. The US would be receiving Super Mario All-Stars on December 12th, 2010. And just like every Nintendo Special Edition, the words "while supplies last" sent fans into a mad dash, racing to their game stores to secure pre-orders. I remember the day very well, driving to the Viewmont Mall to pick up my pre-order, expecting to be one of the few lucky ones who managed to secure their copy of Mario All-Stars amid a sea of demand. And then I walked into GameStop and saw copies piled high, proudly displayed like red Solo cups stacked in a grand pyramid on the back counter. Those limited quantities sure didn't look so limited, at least in that moment they didn't. Taking a look at the package itself, it certainly has curb appeal. It's a really sharp looking box. The Mario 25 logo is printed in big reflective gold paint, which unfortunately has started to chip away on my copy. The white accent on the Wii banner has been changed to a fitting shade of gold, and that red and gold color scheme extends throughout the whole design language and on the back as well. On the front cover of this outer box, it opens up like a PC big box to reveal a preview of all of the contents held within. Relive 4 of Mario's greatest adventures. Celebrate the sounds of Super Mario Bros. Discover the origins of Super Mario Bros. Inside, there's 2 DVD cases, one red and one white. So let's start with the red case. That contains the package's Super Mario History extras. The gold soundtrack CD sure looks nice, and in theory, an extensive Mario soundtrack CD would add more than enough value to make this product worthwhile. However, it only contains 20 tracks, with 10 of them from the various mainline and new Super Mario Bros. Games, and 10 just being sound effects from the first Super Mario Bros. It's easy to say Nintendo left a lot on the table here. Thankfully, the included Mario History booklet is a treat. It includes a nice look back at each of the mainline games, along with concept art and development documents, some of which had never been publicly seen prior to this release. There's also a nice helping of commentary from Shigeru Miyamoto, Takashi Tezuka, and Koji Kondo, which adds a nice touch of personality. Unfortunately, there are various phrases in Japanese on these documents which have not been translated. It's a short read, but it's one well worth flipping through. If you're into Mario concept art, there's a lot to admire here, and it's worth your time. So finally, that brings us to the game itself, Super Mario All-Stars in Wii form, complete with a full-color manual explaining all the games in detail and an obligatory registration sheet for Nintendo's now-defunct Club Nintendo service that pretty much covers everything inside of this physical package. Everything you would have gotten for $30 US back in 2010. So let's move on to the game itself. And unfortunately, that's the sole reason why this collection carries a somewhat notorious status that it still maintains to this day. Make no mistake, Super Mario All-Stars is a fantastic game in itself. These are 4 of the most legendary classics. Each of them were remade excellently for the Super Nintendo, and All-Stars is a great way to play each of them with more detailed sprites and animations. And there's also a save feature for each game, which is a huge quality of life add versus the originals. But are these 16-bit iterations the definitive way to play these games? I guess it depends on your preference. Some claim these All-Stars versions have a different feel versus the originals. I tend to agree, and there's fair argument to be made. However, those arguments are more subjective than anything. Nobody's denying that this game is pure quality. Let me know in the comments how you feel on either side of that debate. The main problem with this port of Mario All-Stars is the lack of any substantial additions that weren't already made for the Super Nintendo release. Hell, never mind substantial, they didn't even shoot for minimal. Besides support for Wii and GameCube controllers, this is a one-to-one port of the original Super Nintendo game. They didn't even opt for the version with Super Mario World. Features you'd expect like aspect ratio adjustments, scanline filters, a music player, none of them are present here. Nintendo didn't even update the controller icons on the save select screen. Make no mistake, this is the original SNES ROM dumped on a Wii disc, and it shows. The game takes up just 12 megabytes on a 4.7 gigabyte single layer DVD, leaving over 99% of the space unused. This is one of the most empty video game discs ever released, if not the most. It's so small that the entire game loads into the Wii's RAM upon launch, so if you take the disc out while playing, it'll work just fine until you turn the console off. Yet, Super Mario All-Stars, despite all of this, was exactly what Nintendo promised. They didn't market the game itself as anything more than a straight port of the original. I guess credit where it's due, Nintendo didn't write checks they couldn't cash. Regardless, some within the public and in the gaming media especially expected more, and it left audiences sharply divided. The AV Club Steve Heisler tore into the release, saying it, quote, fails on every conceivable level, and a few inconceivable ones too. He noted that the included history booklet failed to include Japanese translations for any of these concept schematics, and buying all of the included games on the Virtual Console was cheaper than All-Stars' $30 price tag. For some context here, the Virtual Console titles were about $21 when bought separately on the Wii Shop channel, so the history booklet and CD essentially made up for that $9 upcharge. A lot of reviews at the time were looking at the game through this lens, so it's worth noting here. Nintendo Life gave it a 5 out of 10, calling the release lazy and blasting the European version's included ROM, which runs at the former PAL standard of 50Hz instead of the faster 60Hz. Nintendo World Report put it simply, everything old is old again. However, some outlets like Eurogamer and GamesRadar were much kinder, both awarding 8 out of 10s and praising the package's value proposition versus its discount price. Eurogamer's Simon Parkin even went as far to call it a statement piece on any collector's shelf. And over on IGN, they gave it a 7 out of 10. Color me surprised. Despite the mixed reception, demand for Super Mario All-Stars Limited Edition was high, thanks in no small part to the efforts of Nintendo, marketing the package as a limited time release and a potential collector's item. People reported the game being sold out through the month of December, and by January, Nintendo rep told Wired magazine that a reprint was on the table, while secondhand copies were going for 2 to 3 times above retail on sites like eBay. I guess that cup-stacked pyramid I saw at GameStop didn't last very long at all. By February, GameSpot reported that one final shipment was planned to hit store shelves in March, and that would be the last time we'd see Super Mario All-Stars released in this form, with the booklet and CD included. However, that doesn't mean it's the end of the story, because flash forward 5 years later to March of 2016, well into the life and failure of the Wii U, and All-Stars would see a new life as part of the Nintendo Selects program. The outer box and history-related extras were gone. Instead, this version of Mario All-Stars was a single case repackaged with new artwork to match the Nintendo Selects branding. It was one of 4 Wii games to receive this late Selects reprint, alongside Super Mario Galaxy 2, Animal Crossing City Folk, and Donkey Kong Country Returns. All 3 retailed for $19.99 here in the US. As you'd expect, reaction was mixed. A lot of people thought All-Stars was a hard sell with all of the extra goodies, so removing those and dropping the price $10 wasn't exactly an appealing trade-off. When all the dust was settled, Super Mario All-Stars did end up selling rather well. Per Nintendo's March 2011 sales report, All-Stars had shipped over 2.2 million units, seating it well within the top 40 best-selling games for the Wii. Unfortunately, I couldn't find exact figures for how the reprint fared. These days, if you want to pick up a copy of Mario All-Stars for the Wii, you're in luck. A complete limited edition copy with the booklet and CD will run you about $30 to $40 depending on condition. The Selects reprint tracks around $25, which is, truthfully, a little bit more value than I was expecting for it. You can also play Mario All-Stars on the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 through Nintendo's Switch Online service. And so the lasting legacy of Super Mario All-Stars Limited Edition seems to be one of division. Some people have lasting memories of the wind-up, the hype, the release of this package, opening it up, reading the book, listening to the CD. I remember taking it to class and playing it for like a show and tell. It felt special, it felt cool. And for some people, it felt like a cash grab by Nintendo. Too little, too lazy, and a pathetic attempt to try and capitalize on Mario's 25th birthday. After that, Nintendo would really run with the idea of celebrating Mario's birthday every 5 years, and we've seen plenty more releases, potentially topping this one, so it's at this point in the video that I'd like to turn the conversation over to you guys. What do you think of Super Mario All-Stars on the Wii? Do you remember being excited for it? Do you remember being disappointed by it? Leave me a comment down below, and let's start a conversation down there. Personally, I remember being really excited like I mentioned before, but not actually playing the game all that much. I think I just looked at it more than anything. The copy I have now is my wife's, and she also remembered being very disappointed. And with that, guys, that's all I have for this video. If you made it to this point, I really appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.